Welcome! So you want to play League of Legends? Well, I'm here to show you everything you need to know to get started playing this game. I haven't done a video like this before, but I've been playing for over 10 years and wanted to try and share my knowledge with someone like you who's trying to get started. So strap in because we got a lot to cover. Now I'm sure at this point you've already played the tutorial because Riot won't let you start playing without it, but just in case you haven't, I just want to let you know they are intentionally wasting your time. That tutorial's trash. It's trash, bro! It does almost nothing to teach you about what the game actually is and is more worthless than my college degree. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? The game was released in fall of 2009. It was 75 degrees. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're not going back that far. All you need to know about this game is that it's a part of the MOBA genre. It's a multiplayer online battle arena. Meaning, unlike in the tutorial, people that you're playing against are actually trying to win the game. They play on a map called Summoner's Rift, and it looks a little something like this, but it might actually be easier to imagine it more like this. Two teams of 5 players, each trying to destroy each other's home base, or nexus. So, you know, keep this safe, kill this one. Simple, right? Well, not really. There's these lanes, towers in your way, little minions, jungle monsters, these inhibitors, these dragons that come up at times, not to mention almost infinite combinations of characters to play against. And what in the world is that thing? So there is a lot to learn, and even if you did play with a friend, it might still not make any sense, especially because I know what they did. They try to explain the game while you're actually playing the game, and that doesn't really help. So let's go over these concepts in a more linear fashion and go over what the tutorial should be teaching you. For the game, you control a champion, which we'll refer to them this way from now on. Each champion has 4 abilities. 3 of them are your main normal abilities, and the 4th one is your ultimate and most powerful ability. Your abilities are laid out on the Q, W, E, R keys, and your R is your ultimate. Now, each champion is really unique in how they play, and with over 160 of them to choose from, you'll find one that suits how you want to play. Want to jump across the map and save others? Got it. Want to destroy the enemy with a giant blast of energy? Got it. Want to be Satan and throw mushrooms at people? League's got you covered. That last one does require a skin, but skins get wins, so obviously spend all your money on those cosmetic items and make Papa Riot happy. Now don't hit that play button yet. You want to click this backpack first, which is your profile section, then hit champions so you can see the champions that you have available to you. There are a number of free champions that you can play every week, and they do rotate, so save anything that you have to get those champions until you find a character that you want to keep playing. Because getting this blue essence or league money or whatever, it takes a lot of time and takes a lot of games played. Now, deciding who you want to play before you get into the queue actually helps you set up and also lets you determine what lane you should go into. Each champion has a role that they tend to fill on your team, and with League being as old as it is, throughout the years the community has found out the most beneficial place to play these champions based on what they do. Not saying that you can't go elsewhere. I'm actually a firm believer in play the champion you want where you want to play. I'm just saying that it might not be optimal. And since we have 5 champions, we have 5 different roles. Top, mid, ADC, support, and jungle. Now I'm about to blow your fucking mind right now. Top is at the top of the map. So top lane usually has bigger... Oh, I cracked myself up. So top lane usually have bigger, tankier champions, but usually Riot calls these champions fighters or tanks. Now, I know what you might be thinking these champions look like, but you're wrong! Usually what these champions have in common is that they like to be up close and fight in melee range, although there are some alternatives. But I swear, if I see you Vayne top, I will erupt from your computer and... Now the first one's easy, but this one's a bit different. So mid lane is in the middle of the map. Now the mid lane usually has mages or assassin. Now if you thought the top lane had the waifus, wait till you get mid. Generally these champions are smaller and like to burst down enemies as quickly as possible. Usually if your team and the enemy team both have the same mid laner, theirs will be better. Hey, what? It's not the rules I don't make. Just type in mid diff if you lose. Now, last up for the lanes, we have the bot lane. Now, this one is a little harder to grasp, but stay with me here. It's called this because it's at the bottom of the map. This actually is the only duo lane, so you're going to have 2 champions in this lane. Your ADC, or the attack damage carry, and your support. The ADC is usually the champion that likes to attack quickly from a range and deal a lot of damage to carry the game, the attack damage carry. They take all the money from the lane so they can walk into the 5 enemy players and die instantly. Now if you're a support, your job is to feed this ADC like a mom feeding a little baby with an airplane, because your ADC's a little baby. You try and set up kills for your little baby, try and keep them healthy as they chip away at the enemy, change their diapers and get blamed for all their mistakes, just like a real parent. As a support, you're also responsible for turning on the night lights for your team to make sure the boogeymen aren't hiding in these bushes that are scattered around the map. Now, you do get more wards than everyone else on your team with the support item, but we'll get into that later. But it's your job to keep the lights on and light up those dark places. Now, last up, we have the jungler. They're called this because they go through the jungle. What a concept. League players, am I right? Now, this champion doesn't have a lane. They just roam around the map. They clear these neutral monsters that are scattered around to get their type of money because they're not attacking the minions in the lanes. After they do that, they're responsible for being there for bigger objectives like this dragon, Rift Herald, or Baron, which we'll also get to in a bit. They also are responsible for going into the lanes and ganking. Ganking means going to a lane and forcing a numbers advantage against the enemy. So like a 2v1 in the top and mid, or a 3v2 in the bottom lane. Now, they do have quite a difficult job, and they can't be everywhere at once, so if you ever make a mistake, just remember to blame the jungler. It's not your fault, it's their fault. Why weren't they helping you? They should have been there. Now, when you first start playing, there might not actually be a jungler, so you might have to share the top lane, but that's just part of the whole new game experience. Early on, you don't have access to the smite ability, and it's needed to jungle. Not suggested to jungle, not recommended to jungle, it's needed to jungle. So just go to the lane and learn to play the best you can. So maybe just don't start off in the jungle anyway. So there's a lot of choices for different champions to play and a lot of different roles that you can play with. So don't feel afraid to mix it up and try whatever suits you best. However, once you do find a role and a champion, the fastest way to learn the game is to learn on one champion. Once you get a hold of how to play that champion, then you can focus more on the mechanics of the game instead of learning a full new champion. It's a lot harder to focus on the game when you don't know what the character you're playing does. Alright, we chose a champion, we chose a lane, now it's time to get into the game. There's really two options that you'll have to start. There's this blind pick. If you want to do that, make sure you're quick because it's a big old free-for-all. Or you could go draft, which might take a bit longer to get into the game, but you're more guaranteed to get what you want to play. Alright, we're in it. We picked our champion. Now we want to go over these very important runes that you need to take. Now, for how important these are, they're not located anywhere in the tutorial. Even though if you select the wrong runes, you could have screwed yourself over for a whole game that lasts upwards of 30 minutes. Thanks, Riot. Glad you didn't mention those. So these runes provide additional benefits and give bonuses based on certain playstyle. Riot did implement this auto rune feature, which takes the most popular runes for the champion you selected and will pick the ones that you did automatically, so it's really helpful. But going through all the runes might be a different video, so let's just do a quick breakdown. Now, each color has a name, but honestly, those aren't important. Colors, baby, colors! Red runes are generally for champions like assassins, some ADCs, and maybe some mages use. Blue is for mages that primarily work through magic damage. Yellow is for ADCs or champions that like to attack quickly or have a lot of sustained damage. Green is for tanks or champions that like to be in melee range. Or this white or lightish blue one is for support champions to give them extra utility and gold. Now, this comes with many exceptions. This is a very simplified way of how these are broken down. So just use this auto-generated ones. They should be able to be really good for you. Now, you also have these two summoner spells. Now, these I can go through because they're vital and very powerful. And these are located on your DNF keys. So first, Flash is the most important and powerful spell there is, and you should really have a reason not to be running it. Obviously, you want to be correct, so put this on your F key. F is for Flash, D does not stand for Flash. Smite is the ability that junglers need to take. It gives them bonus experience when killing these jungle monsters and helps them secure very important objectives for winning the game. Heal does just that. It heals you and an ally. Exhaust debuffs an enemy by a large amount. Bury gives you a shield for a couple of seconds. Ignite burns the enemy for a set amount of damage. Ghost gives you a large movement speed buff. And last, there's Cleanse and Teleport. Honestly, just don't take these when you're learning. Just wait and figure out what they do later. And that's it for the lobby and setup of the game. Now, Riot has made the in-game client far more accessible to new players and will help in many aspects of the game, and we'll go over those right now. We did it! We're in the game, and now, well, we're here, so what do we do? So, actually, the part of the tutorial that Riot did kind of shows you. You want to go down the lane, you want to push the lanes till you get to the Nexus and destroy the Nexus, and you win the game. But really, you want to advance your character to become stronger. There are two things that do this. There's levels and there are items. Levels will give you two things. It will give you increased base stats, which increase per level. So every level you get increased base stats. Then you also get ability upgrades. That really just increases the damage of those abilities and also lowers the cooldowns, primarily. We start at level 1 and we can go all the way up to level 18. And for each level, you can upgrade any one of these abilities except your ultimate has some more restrictions. We'll start calling that your ult because you're a league player now. So your ult can be unlocked at level 6. And as a rule, you can upgrade your ult whenever it gives you the option. I think it's 6, 11, and 16. But Riot has implemented this handy suggestion system, which kind of like blinks on the ability that you should upgrade first. So it's best to just use this as a good baseline when you're learning. Now that's really all I'm going to go over for abilities, because there's 160 champions with each having 4 abilities, and that's just a lot to go over. But when you start playing the game, get ready to be surprised by a lot of stuff. Now we start the game with 500 gold. Every champion builds different items, but there are these handy suggested items that can be very helpful in telling you what to build next. Warning, do not buy these items. They reduce the gold you're making when you aren't a support. Warning, do not buy if you're not support. Now you can carry a total of 6 items plus a trinket. There are these items called mythic items, but if you're in the future, you can ignore this part. Mythic items are like Spider-Man from Family Guy.
Everybody gets one.
That's right, you can only build one of these items and the rest are locked out to you, so probably just go with the suggested. Now in all your builds, you want to also make sure to have these boots. Helps you speed up your champion unless you're the snake lady, because she ain't got no feet. But this floating shadow, he loves his footwear.
Hey, this motherfucker got them big keys! I gotta get out of here.
Now from there, you just fill out with the rest of the slots for different items based on what build you want to take. Now quick thing, your trinkets are these things on the side here. The yellow trinket is a ward and can be placed down to light up a part of the map for a certain duration of time. It is invisible to the enemy, so if the enemy wants to destroy this ward, they're going to have to get this red trinket or a sweeper trinket. Now this detects enemy wards within a range or invisible enemy champions, but whatever. But once it's lit up, you can attack it 3 times and it's destroyed. There's also this blue trinket that can't be traded in until level 8, but it's visible ward that can be placed from very far away. So you can see this. If the enemy sees it, they can just destroy it in one hit. Now last up, there's vision wards. These are invisible wards that stay there indefinitely until they are destroyed or until you place down another one. So you can only have one on the map at a time. They act not only as a ward, but also as a sweeper. They reveal enemy wards and also block all vision from all enemy wards that aren't also vision wards. Also as a support, you have a different starting item than everyone else. This will upgrade over the course of the game, and then it will eventually give you 3 wards that can be placed down, and they refresh every time you visit your base. So I've been talking about these items, so where do you get the gold from the items? Well, for the first 1 minute and 30 seconds of the game, there's nothing that gets you any sort of gold unless you start duking it out with the enemy team, but this could be hit or miss. Now, if this does happen in the Elite community, we like to call this a level 1 fiesta. Alright, but after that time, now there's minions have spawned and they're in the lane, so there's some ways to make gold. You can make gold passively, killing monsters in the jungle, which is reserved for your jungler early on, so don't do that. Getting the killing blow on the minions in the lanes, killing enemy champions, destroying their tower plates in the first 14 minutes of the game, and also destroying the enemy towers. Now, the most important one of these for non-junglers and non-supports is killing the minions. I know, it's real exciting. We call this farming. So you want to make sure you get the killing blow on these little guys or you get no gold. Learning to last hit the minions, which is how you call killing them, is extremely important because it's the quickest way to get gold and experience to level up. If you're attacking a minion and it's getting low, just stop attacking it until you know that for certain, 100% that you will kill it with the next hit, and that is how you last hit. Side note again, as a support, your item generates you bonus gold for either executing minions below a certain HP with these 2 items, or by hitting the enemy champion with these 2 items. And also, like I said before, the jungler takes the jungle camps. Now there is also these cannon minions that spawn every 3rd wave. These are the bigger, the badder, and also the more gold heavy and XP heavy minions. So make sure you last hit these. They're worth a lot of gold. Oh, I'm sorry for before. You actually gain experience from just being in the proximity of dying minions or champions, not actually last hitting them. But last hitting them is still really important if you're farming. So keep that in mind. Now that you amass this hoard of treasure, it doesn't mean anything if you don't spend it. You can have 1 million more gold than your opponent. If they spent their 3,000 gold and got an item, you will lose. You do get a bonus from leveling up, but items are the primary way that you get stronger. You can't buy an item anywhere on the map. You have to be in your fountain, which is just a fancy way of saying the place that you spawn. When you get enough gold to buy an item, you can move to a safe place, hit the B key, and you will be home in exactly 8 seconds. You don't have to get a full cost item to buy things, so don't try and wait until you have like 3,000 gold to go back. Like 800 gold is enough to buy smaller items, and those eventually upgrade until what you ultimately want. So we're farming, winning lane, killing the enemies. Now what should we do? There are a lot of these objectives on the map, so let's go over those. For objectives, there are neutral objectives, which are these dragons and this bear in here. And there's also team objectives, which is these towers, these inhibitors, the nexus, obviously. So let's go over the team objectives first. First up, we have towers. So these can be destroyed. They help your team start pushing the lane further forward to the enemy's base, give you gold to help go and buy more items. They will attack you directly if there's no minions in range, or if you attack an enemy while you are in range of the tower, even if minions are there, so be careful. Now, each lane has 3 towers standing before you get to the enemy's base, and 2 guarding the enemy's nexus. Once you get into the enemy's base, there's this thing called an inhibitor. When you destroy the inhibitor, instead of your lane spawning canyon minions, it will start spawning super minions each wave. These minions can be tough to handle, even for champions that are far behind. So if the lane has these super minions, it'll push to the enemy base, and they'll kind of do the work for you in trying to destroy the enemy objectives. That's really all there is in terms of lanes objectives before you get to the nexus. So let's go into the jungle and talk about those neutral objectives. So these objectives aren't owned by anyone. They can be taken by either team. First up, we're going to talk about the dragons. So the dragons spawn at the bottom side of the map in this little cove here. Whenever a team kills the dragon, they'll get a buff for the remainder of the game. There's 6 types of dragons that, when slain, will give you the buff to the whole team. There's mountain dragon for increasing resistances. Ocean dragon increases health regeneration. Cloud increases your movement speed. Infernal dragon increases your damage. Hextech increases your cooldowns or attack speed. Well, decreases your cooldowns. And Chemtep increases your disability resistances and increases healing done to you. Now, after the first 2 dragons in the game are killed, the third one will come out, and this will be the element of the dragon that will spawn for the remainder of the game. It also changes the map based on what dragon it is. Not massively, but it does change a little bit. Now, when your team gets 4 dragons, you get what's called a Dragon Soul, which is an even bigger buff for your team based on the bonuses I mentioned earlier. It really just increases the bonuses. And then the Elder Dragon will spawn. Now, the Elder Dragon is the big old boss dragon, and if you kill this one, you get a buff that lasts for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or until you die. And what it'll do is it'll give you extra burn damage and will execute any enemy that you damage that goes below 20% of their max HP. This is an absolute game-winning buff and can be massive even when behind. Now back to the top side of the map, we have the Rift Herald, which is located in this little alcove here. Now this big monster is only available for the first 20 minutes of the game, and when it's destroyed, you take its eye, you replace your trinket, forget that you have the Rift Herald, try and use your trinket, then place down the Rift Herald somewhere random on the map. What this thing does is once it's placed down, it will go to the nearest tower and it will charge into it and it will bull rush it for a set amount of damage and hopefully some tower plate gold if you set it up right. It will then keep attacking until it dies or until that tower is destroyed, then it will walk to the next one. Good rule of thumb, 1 charge is good, 2 charges is great, any more is fantastic. The most I've ever gotten was 4. Now after 20 minutes, the biggest buff on the wrist will spawn Baron Nashor. Most of the time you will need about your whole team to take this down. You could do it with less, but I wouldn't try it with any less than 3. This gives a massive buff to your team for 3 minutes or until you die. You gain increased damage, faster recall, and whenever you're near minions, they will get an even bigger mega buff. Now that's really it for all the neutral objectives. From there, you just want to start playing the game, learn more about what you want to do in certain types of situations. Once your tower is destroyed, do you want to keep pushing the lane up, or do you want to go to other lanes to destroy their towers? It's really all dependent on what you're doing and how well you're doing it. Just remember to keep using that back button, buying more items, leveling up, and taking objectives, and you will win the game. Also, the most handy tip that I can possibly give you, the League community is pretty toxic, so maybe if someone's annoying you, hit this tab button and hit this mute button to shut them up. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your journey, have fun with friends, and keep learning. Good luck on Summoner's Rift, and if you found the video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to you later!